She endured 3 years of silence, until a rancher walked into her hell, a Wild West redemption story. The wind never knocked before entering the town of Hollow Creek. It howled through broken fences, rattled loose shutters, and carried dust like a reminder that nothing here stayed clean for long, not the streets, not the souls. Eliza Carter learned early that silence was safer than sound. She learned it the first night her husband struck her. Not hard enough to leave marks where others could see, just enough to teach her where she belonged. 3 years later, the bruises faded faster, but the fear never did. The small wooden house at the edge of town looked ordinary from the outside. White paint peeling, one crooked step on the porch, a window that never quite shut. People passed it every day and never suspected that inside lived a woman who counted her breaths like prayers. Eliza knelt on the floor that evening, scrubbing spilled whiskey from the planks. Her fingers trembled as the sharp smell burned her nose. A broken glass lay near the door, its jagged edges catching the lantern light. Her lip was bleeding again. She pressed her fingers against it, tasting iron, and kept scrubbing. If she stopped, he would notice. Boots thudded outside. Her stomach tightened. The door creaked open, slow and deliberate, like it enjoyed making her wait. She didn't look up. She never did anymore. "You miss a spot," her husband growled. She nodded, her hair falling forward to hide her face. "Yes, sir." That word tasted worse than blood. He kicked the bucket aside, whiskey sloshing onto her dress. Useless. When he left the house later, slamming the door behind him, Eliza collapsed against the wall, pulling her knees to her chest. She didn't cry. Tears made noise. Instead, she stared at the floor and wondered how many more nights her body could survive what her spirit already hadn't. The next morning, Hollow Creek buzzed with rare excitement. A rancher had arrived. Men gathered near the saloon, eyeing the tall stranger as he dismounted his horse. His coat was dust-worn, his face hard in the way only life could carve. A revolver rested at his side, not flashy, practical. His name was Thomas Hale. He didn't come looking for trouble. Trouble had a way of finding him anyway. Thomas noticed Eliza before she noticed him. She stood at the market stall, sleeves pulled low despite the heat, eyes fixed on the ground. When a man brushed past her too roughly, she flinched like a struck animal. Thomas frowned. He'd seen fear before, in war camps, in dying towns, in mirrors. But this was different. This was trained fear. The shopkeeper barked at her to hurry up. She dropped her coins. As she bent to pick them up, her sleeve slipped, revealing yellowed bruises around her wrist. The world slowed. Thomas knelt and handed her the last coin. Their fingers touched. She froze. "Easy," he said quietly. "I won't hurt you." Her eyes flicked up, wide, dark, terrified. No one had ever said those words to her before. She nodded quickly and backed away, almost tripping over herself. Thomas watched her go, a weight settling in his chest. That night, a scream cut through Hollow Creek. Short, sharp, silenced too fast. Most folks turned over in their beds and told themselves it was none of their business. Thomas sat up. He waited. No second scream came. He reached for his coat. Eliza lay on the floor, vision blurred, ears ringing. Her husband stood over her, breathing hard. "Next time," he warned, "I won't stop." The door burst open. Wood splintered. A shadow filled the doorway. "Step away from her," a calm voice said. Her husband turned, stunned. "This ain't your..." The rancher's gun never wavered. "I said," Thomas repeated, "step away." For the first time in 3 years, someone stood between Eliza and the darkness. And everything, began to change. The truth no one wanted to see. For a moment, no one moved. The lantern swung gently from the ceiling, casting broken shadows across the room. Eliza lay curled on the floor, her cheek pressed against the cold wood, her body shaking so hard she couldn't control it. Thomas Hale stood in the doorway, gun steady, eyes locked on the man towering over her. "You got 3 seconds, Thomas said evenly. "Then I stop asking." Eliza's husband laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "You don't know who you're pointing that at, stranger." "I know enough." Thomas stepped inside, boots heavy, deliberate. Each step felt like a countdown. The man hesitated, then slowly raised his hands, backing away. Eliza couldn't look up. She waited for the blow that always followed defiance. It never came. Instead, she heard a sound she had almost forgotten. Someone kneeling beside her. "You hurt bad?" Thomas asked quietly. His voice wasn't angry now. It wasn't loud. It was careful. Eliza shook her head automatically. Saying yes had never helped before. Thomas saw the lie in her eyes. "I'm not here to make things worse," he said. "I promise." Promises were dangerous things. Still, something in his tone cracked through her fear. Her voice broke. She swallowed. "Please don't make him angry." Thomas's jaw tightened. The man behind them sneered. "She's clumsy. Always has been." Thomas stood slowly, turning back toward him. "You lay another hand on her, and you won't be standing tomorrow." "You threatening me in my own house?" "No," Thomas said coldly. "I'm warning you." For a long moment, the air felt ready to explode. Then footsteps sounded outside. Neighbors. Curiosity. Fear of trouble spreading faster than courage. Thomas holstered his gun. "I'll be watching," he said. "All of you will." He offered Eliza his coat. She stared at it like it might bite her. "It's warm," he said softly. "And you're bleeding." Her hands shook as she took it. That night, for the first time in 3 years, Eliza slept without being touched by pain. The town talked the next morning. They always did. Some said the rancher should mind his business. Others said Eliza must have done something to deserve it. A few whispered that they'd always suspected something wasn't right, but whispering was as far as they'd ever gone. Eliza stayed inside, curtains drawn, heart pounding every time a footstep passed the house. Her husband didn't come home. Fear and hope tangled inside her until she couldn't tell which hurt more. Near sunset, a knock came at the door. 3 gentle taps. She froze. "Miss Carter," Thomas's voice called. "It's me." Her hands trembled as she opened the door just enough to see him standing there, hat in hand. "I brought food," he said, holding out a small sack. "And information." She hesitated, then stepped aside. The house smelled of fear and stale whiskey. Thomas didn't comment. He set the food on the table. "He won't be back tonight," Thomas said. "Sheriff's holding him." Eliza's knees nearly gave out. She grabbed the chair to steady herself. "For how long?" she whispered. Thomas exhaled slowly. "Long enough for you to decide what you want." No one had ever asked her that. "I don't know how," she admitted. "That's all right," Thomas said. "We'll take it one step at a time." The word we echoed louder than the rest. Over the next few days, Hollow Creek changed, not loudly, not all at once, but enough to be noticed. Thomas stayed. He fixed fences, helped at the stables, shared quiet meals at the diner. People started listening when he spoke. Men like him had weight. Eliza began stepping outside. At first, only at dawn, when the streets were empty. Then to the well. Then, one morning, to the market, her sleeves rolled up. The bruises showed. Gasps followed. Eyes dropped. Shame spread like wildfire. No one apologized. But silence grew heavier. Thomas walked beside her, not touching, just present. "You don't owe them anything," he said when she hesitated. She nodded, holding her head higher than she ever had. The trial was small. Too small. The sheriff called it a domestic matter. Thomas called it a lie. Eliza sat on the wooden bench, hands clenched in her lap, heart hammering as her husband stood across from her, eyes full of hatred. "Did you strike your wife?" the sheriff asked. "She's fragile," he replied. "Always hurting herself." The room murmured. Thomas stood. "Permission to speak." The sheriff sighed. "Make it quick." Thomas pulled a folded paper from his coat. "These are statements. From neighbors. From the doctor in the next town. From the stable boy who heard the screams." Eliza's breath caught. He continued, voice steady. "You all saw her bruises. You heard her cries. And you chose comfort over truth." Silence fell like a hammer. Her husband's face drained of color. For the first time, Eliza looked at him without fear. He looked small. That night, Eliza sat on the porch, watching the sky turn purple and gold. Thomas joined her, sitting a respectful distance away. "I didn't save you," he said quietly. "You did that yourself." She shook her head. I didn't even know I was allowed to want more. He looked at her then, really looked. You always were. A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. But Hollow Creek wasn't finished with its darkness. Not yet, because men like her husband didn't accept loss quietly. And freedom always comes at a cost. The price of freedom. Hollow Creek slept uneasily. The wind pressed against the town like it knew something was coming. Lanterns flickered in windows, and dogs whined for no reason at all. Eliza woke before dawn, not from a nightmare, from a feeling. The kind that settles in your bones long before danger shows its face. She sat up slowly, listening. Footsteps. Too heavy, too deliberate. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She reached for the shawl Thomas had given her, wrapping it tightly around herself as if it could shield her from the past. The door creaked. A shadow filled the frame. I told you I'd come back, her husband hissed. Her body remembered before her mind could react. Fear surged, sharp and familiar, but something else rose with it. Strength. I'm not yours anymore, she said, her voice trembling but unbroken. He laughed. You think that rancher can save you forever? Before she could answer, a gun cocked behind him. No, Thomas said, but I can stop you tonight. The man spun around, fury blazing in his eyes. This is between me and my wife. She stopped being that the moment you broke her, Thomas replied. The street filled with people, neighbors, the sheriff, men who had once looked away. No one hid this time. The man lunged. The shot echoed through Hollow Creek. When the sound faded, he lay on the ground, wounded but alive, staring up at a sky that no longer belonged to him. The sheriff stepped forward, cuffs in hand. It's over, he said. And for once, he meant it. The days that followed felt unreal. Eliza testified, calmly, clearly, without lowering her eyes. She spoke of the nights, the fear, the silence, and the room listened. Her husband was sentenced to leave Hollow Creek forever. No second chances, no quiet returns. When the gavel fell, Eliza didn't cry. She breathed. Spring came gently that year. Flowers pushed through dry soil. Fences were repaired. Laughter returned, slow but genuine. Eliza moved into a small house near the edge of town, sunlight in every room. Thomas helped her fix the roof. They talked about small things at first. Weather, horses, coffee that tasted like regret. Then deeper things. Why did you stay? She asked one evening. Thomas stared at the horizon. Because once, no one stayed for me. She understood. Months later, Hollow Creek gathered for the first time in celebration. Music echoed down the street. Lanterns glowed warm and golden. Eliza stood in the crowd, head high, laughter in her eyes. She caught Thomas watching her. Not like someone guarding, like someone admiring. You ready for tomorrow? He asked. She smiled. I've been ready for years. As the sun dipped below the hills, Eliza realized something profound. Her story wasn't about pain anymore. It was about survival, about choosing life, about the quiet courage of standing up, even when your voice shakes. And the stranger who walked into her hell had only reminded her who she already was. Put on your headphones and step into a powerful Western tale that will stay with you long after the story ends. Comment below. Do you believe silence can be braver than screaming?